Hello everyone, this is Uncle Yeow and the Singapore Story. Now today we are going to talk about an important topic that is in the process of our nation building. One very large and important part is actually public education campaigns, alright, which we normally do not talk of. Now what is public education campaign? Well, right from the very beginning in the 60s, 70s and 80s, we actually ran a lot of public education campaigns to change the behavior of Singaporeans and to improve their lives. And also very important is actually to inculcate in Singaporeans a sense of civic mindedness. So what are some of these public education campaigns? That's what we are going to discuss today. Now, Singapore had launched over 200 campaigns in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Now, many of these campaigns had positive effects even till today, and most of it are actually work in progress as far as educating the public is concerned. Now, important things are like water saving, anti-smoking, anti-littering, keep Singapore clean, courtesy campaign, stop at two campaign, and there are many, many more. Now, below are some of the most memorable Singapore campaigns of the past. Now, what are some of these? Now, the first campaign was actually the tree planting campaign initiative. Now, tree planting was actually initiated by the government and it was started by Lee Kuan Yew in 1963. And every year since then, we have planted more than 10,000 saplings every year. Over the years, we have planted more than 2 million trees. Now, that's how many trees we have planted. Today, Singapore, we have in total more than 7 million trees. And by the end of this decade, because of the 1 million tree initiative, we will have more than 8 million trees altogether. So over here, you can see LKY during the first tree planting campaign. All right, so every year now, we have tree planting day in Singapore. And in 1967, one of the campaigns that is not very well known is actually the Eat More Wheat campaign in place of rice, all right? So this is going against the rice grain. Now why? Because at the time, in 1967, there was a massive rice shortage around the world. So the call was for Singaporeans to switch from eating rice to eating wheat in 1967, but this did not take root despite best efforts by the government, because rice is still very much a staple food of all Singaporeans and Asians. Alright, so they actually tell you that wheat flour gives a wide variety of food to suit every taste, and this was actively promoted. The Eat More Wheat campaign. But I must say, today, a lot more people are eating wheat in the form of noodles, pastries, and cakes. So in some ways, this may have been the result of that particular campaign in 1967, the Eat More Wheat campaign. The next campaign that is very well known and is probably one of the most successful one is the Keep Singapore Clean campaign. This is Singapore's first national campaign as an independent nation. Now, this was launched on 1st October 1968 by then Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew. Month-long campaign aimed to make Singapore the cleanest and greenest city in the region by addressing the problem of inconsiderate littering. So you can see here, LKY himself does the rounds in terms of sweeping and keeping the city clean. This is another take of people going around to help keep the city. And later on, it morphs into Keep Singapore Clean and Green. This is actually the start of our Garden City campaign. All right. Singapore has now become a garden city, a city in the garden, and also a city in nature. So this particular campaign is still a very much ongoing exercise. And one of the problems is that today littering is still very much a problem in Singapore. We have not eradicated littering. So therefore, this campaign has to keep on going in some form. Another very interesting campaign, which is not very well known, is actually called Operation Snip Snip. Now, this is actually the fight against long hair for guys. Now, in the late 1960s, an anti-long hair campaign was launched by the Singapore government in a bid to slow down the influence of the hippie culture in the West. All right. Now, hippie culture in the West actually promotes things like drug taking, long hair, unruly behavior, and what have you. And therefore, this particular campaign is actually to slow down that Western influence. So as you can see, males with long hair will be attended to last. And if you want to get through the Singapore custom, your hair must be of decent length. So if you have long hair, the customs will actually cut the long hair for you. Now, this was actually mentioned in New Zealand Parliament by an MP who said that his mother was the most grateful to Singapore for when he passed by Singapore at the time, the Singapore government, the custom actually cut his hair, which nobody could ever do. So the mother was eternally grateful to the Singapore government. Another campaign was policies enacted by Singapore to stop at two. This is the national campaign, and this included abortion, which was legalized in 1970, and to encourage as a population control method. Now, the Stop at Two campaign at the time was very successful. So successful that in fact people don't just stop at two, and most of them stop at one and a half. So they had to actually reverse that particular. Okay, these were some of the posters that were put out. Put some years between us, girl or boy, two is enough. And then you have various other posters of the time. Small families, brighter future, girl or boy, two is enough. Plan a two-child family. Now, this was actually to slow down the population growth because the government was concerned that a lot of families with large numbers of children were actually not able to afford for the education and proper upbringing of the child. Another campaign was Singapore's initial efforts towards combating the smoking problem began in the early 1970s. So there was a number of anti-smoking campaign that was ran throughout the years. So you can see from 1970 onwards, smoking control over the years. All right. Singapore is banned. Smoking is banned in all cinemas and buses in 1970. All tobacco advertising banned 1971. 1986, National Smoking Control Program launched. And then 87, smoking is banned on the new MRT. And then Smoking Prohibition Act integrates previous smoking bans. 1993, Tobacco and Sale Tobacco Act is introduced. And then 1994, smoking is banned at all air-conditioned private offices and factories. So these are some of the very strict measures that we have taken against smoking. And of course, one of the more popular campaign was actually the National Courtesy Campaign to promote courtesy, more graciousness in our society. And this has taken on with Singa being the mascot. All right. And these have taken over for a number of years in promoting courtesy. Now, today Singapore is known as quite a courteous society, especially to foreigners. So in some ways, this campaign has worked its course. And the Speak Mandarin campaign is also one of the very important campaigns that was launched by Lee Kuan Yew in promoting bilingualism, so that every citizen, first of all, you learn English as the first language, and then you learn your mother tongue as a second language. And for Chinese, of course, Mandarin would be the second language. And we have promoted a lot of Speak Mandarin campaign. Initially, there was a lot of resistance from parents But over the years, especially with the rise of China, everybody now realized the importance of being able to speak Mandarin. Even some families from Malay and Indian families also began to learn Mandarin as one of their language. So all in, we have gone a long way in promoting public education to change behavior, improve attitudes of our citizens. But like I said, this is an ongoing process. And now with the advent of social media, things will be done quite differently from the past. But nevertheless, public education, public campaigns will still continue to be a very important feature in our nation building, all right, in our road towards building a better and more courteous nation so that everybody can have a good life going forward. This is Uncle Yao saying thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed this particular video, and I hope to see you again in the next episode of Uncle Yao and the Singapore Story. Thank you. Bye.